Well, we're here with Colonel Johnson from the Artillery Detachment at Fort Sill, I believe, US Marine Corps. First of all, Colonel, always great to see you and to hear from you. Last time we spoke, we talked about mortars specifically, which is the event today. But let's talk about your area of expertise, really, which is artillery itself. So can I ask, first of all, what the program is at the USMC, and what are the key things you're currently focusing on at the moment?
Good question. Well, for the Marine Corps perspective, I think last year when I came to the conference, or 2 years ago when I came to the conference, I briefed about the triad of fires within the field artillery, how we're acquiring the HIMARS rocket system, the M777 howitzer, and the EFSS. As we stand right now, we are fully fielded in the HIMARS, and we are fully fielded in the M777. We're about halfway through fielding of the EFSS system, and we're continuing to learn how to use the EFSS, and we're continuing to improve the systems that we have currently fielded. Our big push right now in the Marine Corps is increasing or improving our target acquisition capability, target location capability. We're also looking to improve our liaison capability to the maneuver units. As we were in Iraq, we were not providing full liaison sections to all the maneuver battalions going into the fight because of the coin nature of the fight. In Afghanistan, we find ourselves in a little bit more kinetic fight and a little bit more distributed operations where fire support is more readily available and more readily employed. Because of that, we're found a necessity to provide a full-up liaison section, artillery liaison section, to the maneuver units. And we're trying to change the character of that artillery liaison section and become more of a joint fires section rather than a liaison section. We call them a fire support team. And we provide a fire support team to the rifle company, to the maneuver battalion, and to the RCT headquarters. We're kind of changing the way we train some of our observers. We are fully engaged with the Joint Fires Observer Program, the JFO program, and we're going to be teaching all of our scout observers, JFOs, and all of our lieutenant artillery officers are going to get a course, take the JFO course to be the fire support officer for the company. Additionally, we have JTACs that are going to be artillery Marines trained as JTACs that will be resident at the artillery battalion, but will be deployed at the maneuver battalion when that time comes. For other tweaks we're doing to the artillery, we're looking very hard at reorganizing the artillery batteries across the Marine Corps, or at least the cannon batteries across the Marine Corps. One of the things we found out, or one of the drivers for that, is this need for distributed operations. As we found ourselves both in Iraq and Afghanistan, is a need to split up an artillery battery to provide a firing capability across a greater area within the AO. Our artillery batteries are not organized to operate as independent platoons currently, and we're taking a hard look at what it would take to make our batteries capable of doing platoon operations, where we'd have 2 firing platoons capable of independent operations with a complete FDC in each platoon. A little bit of redundancy, but it gives us flexibility. And we're looking for force structure in order to make those changes. And there's also a training requirement that'll increase if we make those changes. So we're trying to provide a more capable artillery battery, or capable battalion to support our maneuver units as we look at the way the world's changing.
Okay, and what would you say would be the biggest challenges of creating that capability?
Well, truthfully, the greatest challenge right now is operating within the budget. All the Western nations are under financial strain, and because of the financial strain, everybody's looking to decrease their defense budget. The United States Marine Corps is looking to decrease its size somewhat. The artillery was already decreased back in the 90s, so I don't know whether the artillery is going to decrease in size in the Marine Corps, but we want to increase in capability either way. If we're going to decrease in size, we need to make a more capable firing battery, a more capable artillery battalion. And the way we're going to achieve that is through training and through just allocation of the people that we have. So the greatest challenge to doing this is doing it within the resources available.
Okay, industrial. We've heard today things from other nations in terms of how people are using different types of technology, new technologies, digitization. Is the Marine Corps either implementing something new or looking ahead to perhaps implementing something new in terms of new platforms?
Some of I guess the precision is the name of the game right now in the current fight. And the Marine Corps is very interested in increasing its precision within the artillery. Specifically, The PGK capability has stumbled a little bit because of the technology needs to do it. The PGK is we have Excalibur, we're using Excalibur to great effect. We have the Gimler rocket, we're using it to great effect. We'd like something a little bit more cost effective. We are currently also working on a precision guided mortar round, extended range precision guided mortar round, and that too has promise and capability. What we really are looking to do is sort of, I guess, increase the capability. We have a tremendous amount of capability that we've gained through technology. From my point of view, and I'm the guy at the Field Artillery School, what I would say is we probably have maybe a training gap or a training deficiency in leveraging the technology that we currently have. We have a digitized howitzer, and we're using it in a digitized fashion, but we fully haven't developed the tactics, techniques, and procedures to maximize the capabilities of that weapon system. Some of those force structure changes I mentioned earlier about operating in platoons would give us that capability. You know, for the HIMARS units, we originally envisioned using HIMARS as a HIMAR battery would break down into 2 platoons. For real-world operations, we found we can operate in a 2-launcher platoon and make 3 platoons within the battery, and we've done that. We've made those force changes. So we're trying to maybe learn how to use the equipment better and leverage what we already have as opposed to buy more stuff and add more systems, change technologies too fast. You know, we're changing software blocks, you know, every 6 months, and I will say that we probably aren't fully trained on the last set of software before we got the new set of software. So it's an issue as far as training deficiencies and trying to find the time to train. One of the changes over the last 2 years is that the Marine Corps has, since we've since we've gotten out of Iraq, combat operations have ceased in Iraq, our force requirements across the Marine Corps have gone down slightly. What that means is we actually have more dwell time at home station. And with more dwell time at home station, we can train on some of these other areas that we've been deficient in before. We're focusing more on, you know, full spectrum operations, not just on coin operations. And when we start looking at full spectrum operations, we can start taking advantage of some of the technologies that our systems were designed for originally that we haven't been using since we've been in Iraq and in Afghanistan.
Okay. And on the topic of coin, obviously there's a greater need for artillery, or it's been employed a lot more in later years, simply because there needs to be that issue of range and so on. But does that cause a conflict with the coin strategy, which is about reducing collateral?
Well, it's all about, you know, yes, do I want to shoot a lot of artillery or use a lot of fire support? Truthfully, no. But, you know, in any coin operation, you're going to have a clear phase, a hold phase, and a build phase. I think where the Marine Corps is finding itself right now, there's a little bit of clearing to be done. And in the AO that we've been given, there's areas in that AO where coalition forces have not been, and they've been Taliban strongholds. We find our battalions, maneuver battalions, are starting to clear some of those areas. As we clear those, it's been a kinetic operation. Once they're cleared, we go into a hold phase and then into the build phase. But we've seen a little bit of a spike in kinetic operations as we've pushed into these areas. Hopefully, once we've cleared them, we'll go to hold, and the use of indirect fire assets will go down again. You bring up a good point about, I guess, effects. And there's a lot of effects on the battlefield that are not kinetic. Part of that enhanced fire support team that I was mentioning earlier, giving a larger artillery liaison section to the maneuver, is to provide some more subject matter experts to do some of the, the non-lethal operations. And the Marine Corps has always been focused sort of on people, indigenous populations. General Mattis, when we did OIF-1, said no better friend, no worse enemy. And he understood that you had to reach out to the population. That's something the Marine Corps has done forever, actually. And I think we have probably need to formalize the process a little bit more, and we need to get better at it. And from the fire support perspective, the Army FCOE, Fire Center of Excellence, the Army's kind of changed some of its thought process on this, where the fire support coordinator is now called an effects coordinator. The Marine Corps is moving in that direction also. And our young artillery officers that are in the fire support billets need to think full spectrum as far as effects. And we're doing that. We've got a lot of experience. The artillery battalions were in Iraq tasked to do CA. And we've gained a little bit of corporate knowledge, a little bit of corporate experience as far as doing civil CA and CMO operations. some of that is transitioning to Afghanistan. From the artillery side, though, one thing that we are taking advantage of is while we were in Iraq, we lost a tremendous amount of our capability, artillery capability, because we did in lieu of missions where it's a non-standard or non-artillery mission, but one after another. And we had artillery battalions for about 4.5, 5 years deployed to Afghanistan on several different missions, but never as an artillery battalion. The last 2 years, the pressure's been off and we've been able to retrain and refocus on artillery and gain back more of the full spectrum capability. But at the same time, we haven't lost the experience gained while doing a CMO mission.
Okay. Obviously here at Mortars and where we will be going, which is Future Artillery, you'll be attending and speaking at. A lot of people will obviously be coming to hear from you, to hear about the Marine Corps, what they've been doing, the US Army as well, the British Army, and to a few of the other really leading militaries that have a long history in artillery. But for you yourself, are there any nations or any programs in particular that you're really keen on hearing from, just to get an idea to help your own process?
Well, you know, I will say I will probably be surprised by attending. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to sit next to the chief of the Canadian artillery, and also with the Australian artillery. And it was just very interesting to talk about some of the problem sets that they had and their solutions to the problem sets, specifically as far as JTAC training and JFO training. And the Canadians were taking the perspective that they were going to focus on enlisted JTACs instead of officer JTACs because they could get more deployments out of an enlisted JTAC than they could an officer JTAC. And you know, the Marine Corps started moving in that direction as well. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to train a JTAC. There's only a limited number of seats available to create these guys. And if I can get 2 or 3 deployments out of a Marine as a JTAC, it prevents me from having to train 2 or 3 extra guys. So there's some interesting you know, crosstalk when it comes to that. Also, as far as systems and employment of systems, you know, the British Army is pretty liberal in its use of Gimler rockets. And you know, they developed TTPs to employ the system quicker. You know, when I was out here last year, I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to some of the British artillery officers and how they did airspace clearance, and it was a good opportunity to cross-pollinate with that. Marine Corps focused on that over the last 1.5 years in our training pipeline. We've worked it in our system within, you know, our Marine Air Ground team, and actually we've been employing Gimlers a little bit. We've increased our usage of the Gimler rocket simply because we've gained or improved our TTPs in getting clearance of airspace.
And that's a specific case study, I suppose. In a general sense, how useful is it for you, do you think, or how important is it for people to attend conferences like this on a one-to-one basis? From
the Marine Artillery School perspective, for me, sitting in as, you know, kind of a spokesman for Marine Artillery, it's very useful. A lot of what I will take is there are different forums within the Marine Artillery community that I'll have the opportunity to talk about world trends and where everybody else in the world is going. You know, for instance, the multi-mission radar. The Marine Corps is developing its Gator. Other nations are looking for a multi-mission radar. The United States Army is developing its EPQ-36. There's a lot of competition out there, and there's a lot of claims, what does what, and it's interesting to get them all on the table and to see from the operator's perspective what's available, and be able to talk to the program guys and the requirements guys as to, you know, what actually suits our requirements the best. From the just strictly artillery perspective, it's good to know what the rest of the world is doing. You know, from the industrial perspective, some of the briefs we have on new howitzer systems that are being produced. You know, at some point, you know, although the Marine Corps has just now fielded its M777 howitzer, at some point we're going to need to replace that weapon system. And it's interesting to see that really nobody in the world right now is pursuing a advanced towed howitzer system. And you know, what is the future for artillery? Is it going to be, you know, is artillery going to be a rocket or a missile for long-range precision engagement? You know, have we pushed the limit of a tube artillery or the munitions for tube artillery? The other trend that we're following is just the howitzer itself may have reached its its apex of engineering capability, but now we're going to improve the performance of ammunition and improve the precision of ammunition, so I have to use less ammunition. All of these things are good discussion items because it has ramifications for how your requirements are going to be in the future. And it's good to get that perspective. Cross-pollination with the other artillery communities that are out there is always enjoyable. I always enjoy talking to the artillery, the nations that have people in Afghanistan, and how they've employed their indirect fire or their fire support assets in Afghanistan, how they've employed their liaison sections, their fire supporters within countries, always interesting to talk to, and how they pursue their training and proficiency in these areas is always interesting to hear about as well.
Okay, and you asked the question yourself, actually, where is the future of artillery?
Yes.
If I were to ask you that, could you possibly give us a rough idea as to your own opinion?
Well, within the Marine artillery community, there's always, if you start with a blank slate, what do you want? I want extended range, I want precision weapon systems, and I also would like, low cost, and I would like lightweight. Well, those are all sort of mutually exclusive requirements. I need to strike a balance between there. And the threat artillery that the NATO forces or coalition forces may face, in many cases will outrange current NATO weapon systems, at least current U.S. systems. And I think if there's not an effort out there right now to build the next towed howitzer, the next towed howitzer. At least I haven't seen it within the Western, within Europe or the U.S.
So that's what we should be keeping an eye out for.
I don't know. Well, the question would be: do we need another? Have we gone as far as we can go with technology, or with have we reached the limits of physics? Do I need to look at the next solution?
It's a good question, and I'm sure it'll come up in future artillery.
Sure.
Colonel, thank you very much for
your time. You're welcome.